folks, welcome to a new episode of the 59th Minute FPL podcast, which is brought to you by The Athletic. I'm Mark McGettigan, aka FPL General, recording 1 week before FPL returns. It's good to be back behind the microphone. I was having a look today. The last episode I released was way back on the 10th of March. So now we're the 10th of June. So it's exactly 3 months since we've been talking properly about FPL. So it's very good to be back, and I'm very much looking forward to the final few weeks of the season. This episode is going to be a bumper Gameweek 30 plus preview. Now I say Gameweek 30 plus, that is the way FPL have rebranded the final few game weeks of the season, because Gameweek 30 to Gameweek 38, it ran through without any games. So they've added a plus now. So the next game week we have is double Game Week 30 plus. Then it will be Game Week 31 plus, Game Week 32 plus, and so on. So that's just to explain why the plus is there. So this episode I will preview Game Week 30 plus. Probably going to be a bit longer than my usual podcast, given that there's a lot to cover. It'll be a questions-based episode, which should cover all of the main talking points ahead of the restart next week. Once the football is back, I'll be releasing the more familiar 30 or so minute episodes in between each of the remaining game weeks. I'm looking forward to welcoming lots of new members to the 59th Minute Club. So now that managers can make 5 substitutions per game, it's going to cause a lot more frustration for FPL managers, but it's good news for my podcast because I'll get to welcome a lot of new players to the 59th Minute Club. So when the games are on, as always, keep an eye out when the clock gets to 59, between that 59 and 60. You know, if any players get hauled off, be sure to send me a tweet. To get a 30-day free trial on The Athletic, you can go to theathletic.com/FPL pod. In doing so, you'll get access to my FPL articles. I released one yesterday on there, which is the perfect team for the run-in. There'll also be another article going up on probably Monday next week before the restart on FPL as well. You'll also get access to the Q&As that I take part in just before deadline each week. Always good fun, those. A mad hour of FPL Q&A. As well as a host of excellent Premier League content from the best journalists in the business, which will help you with your FPL decisions. Before I get stuck into the questions, and there's quite a few of them, I'm going to just touch on some of the important aspects on how FPL is going to resume. So this is probably the most important part of the podcast, so make sure you listen to these few bullet points I've got here. The first one is obviously the headline news is that we've all got unlimited transfers until kickoff on Wednesday the 17th. Also, there's no price changes until after the first deadline. So there's no panic to start making transfers. You don't need to worry about players rising in price, players falling in price, because prices are locked now until after the first deadline. Now, it's only until then. Afterwards, I expect everything to go back to normal. But that just gives us breathing space. You know, there's no need to start, bringing players in and out, having to worry about price changes. So that's a good thing that they've implemented. All chips are also available in Game Week 30 plus. So we can all make unlimited transfers, but we can also use any chips that we have in the double game week. So whether you have triple captain, bench boost, or free hit, you can make as many changes as you want without having to use your wildcard, and then you can use any of those chips in the double game week. Now, the one important thing to note here is for people who plan to free hit in Game Week 30, free hit is the most confusing chip, and it's probably the most commonly asked question this week is, can I make unlimited transfers, then use my free hit, and will my team afterwards then be that new team with all the unlimited transfers? And the answer is no. So this is a trap. You need to make sure you don't fall into this trap. So if you decide to use your free hit chip in Game Week 30, once Game Week 31 rolls around, then your team is going to go back to what it was like in Game Week 38. So once, let's say a month ago, if you just go and click on your team, if you click on points, that will show you what your team was like in Game Week 38 when the regular season finished. So no matter what you do, if you use free hit in Game Week 30, when Game Week 31 rolls around, you're going to go back to the way the team was in Game Week 38. not to how it would look when you make unlimited transfers. So, it's hard to explain this, but if you make unlimited transfers over the next few days, let's say you bring in the likes of, Mahrez, Aguero, Bruno Fernandes, and, if you didn't already have them, then if you decide to free hit in Game Week 30, you're not going to have those guys afterwards. You're not going to have Mahrez, you're not going to have Aguero, you're not going to have Bruno Fernandes. You're going to have the team that you had previously in Game Week 38, because when you use a free hit chip, it cancels the transfers you've made. So effectively, anyone who activates a free hit chip, that will cancel out the unlimited transfers that you've made. So hopefully that is clear. If it's not, send me a message on Twitter at FPL General and I can explain that to you. I think a lot of people are going to get caught out by that. They think they're going to have this shiny new team, use their free hit chip, and then have the shiny new team afterwards. That's not the case. The deadline as well, important to know when that is. The first deadline is 5 p.m. UK on Wednesday the 17th of June. So set a reminder in your phone. Don't get caught out by the early deadline. There's going to be quite a few of them. There's going to be quite a few of those 5 p.m. UK deadlines for the midweek game. So it's good to just look ahead, get a post-it note, stick it on the laptop or on the desktop with all the deadlines, just because, if you're going to be taking the last few game weeks of the season seriously, one thing you don't want to do is miss one of those deadlines. So just know when they are, make a note of them. And as I say, even just set reminders in your phone for, 1 hour or two beforehand so you don't get caught out. A quick tip here as well for people who are going to be making unlimited transfers between now and the first deadline. Always go to list view on the transfers page before you sell a player to see what value you have tied up in that player. So the message here is don't endlessly tinker. Don't bring in loads of players today, sell loads of players today, and do the same tomorrow and the next day and the next day. You need to protect your team value. You're going to have players that you bought for less than what they're worth now. So an example, I've got Kevin De Bruyne in my team. I bought him when he was 9.6 million. If I decide today to get rid of him with my unlimited transfers, I can sell him for 10.1 million because he's now worth 10.6. So you get half of the profit. Now the issue there is, if I decide to sell KDB today, I get 10.1. But I could decide before next week's deadline, actually, I don't want to sell him. I want to keep him. And I would have sold him for 10.1, and then I'm going to have to pay extra to get him back. I'm going to have to pay 10.6 to get him back. So that's just an example. Never sell a player until you're 100% sure that you're not going to want them back in. So yeah, the key message, don't press confirm transfers until you're 100% sure. Now the fact that there's no price changes between now and Wednesday's deadline means you don't have to press confirm on anything. You can go to the transfers page, play around, bring players in, bring players out, but you don't have to press confirm because you don't need to worry about price changes. So that's my advice. If you are having a play around with things, looking at a few different drafts for when things start, just do it on the transfers page, but don't press confirm until next Tuesday or next Wednesday when you are 100% sure of the 15 players that you want. Another thing to mention before I get on to the questions is captaincy. Now this is something I haven't seen mentioned in too many other places this week. It's, captaincy is so important in FPL. And if you're someone who is making unlimited transfers, and even for those who are not making unlimited transfers, which I'll get onto later as well, is yes, number one, you're probably going to look at the fixtures when you're picking your players, but always make a note of captaincy as well. So there's 9 game weeks left. Have a look at each game week, pinpoint which players you're going to want to captain. Now, a good example of this is maybe you'll be happy enough to captain the likes of Salah and Mane for the next week or two, but will you be happy to captain them, once the league's wrapped up and when there could be more rotation? So you've got to pinpoint for the rest of the season for each game week which players are the good captaincy options, and have at least 2, I would say, that you can choose from each game week. So keep that in mind if you are building a shiny new squad of 15 players. Keep in mind which players are you going to captain each week. Moving on to the questions now. So I've split these up a little bit to give it a bit of a structure. So the first 3 questions are more about overall strategy and how to approach double game week 30 and thereafter. And then the following 7 or 8 questions are more about specific kind of players and teams to target for the rest of the season. So first of all, the strategy questions. The first one came in from Holly at FF Community, and FPL Crate Digger also had a similar question. If you are happy with your squad at present, is free hit a good strategy for Gameweek 30 plus? So very good question straight off the bat, and this matches up with my own team. So I've got my team in front of me. The only chip I have left is the free hit chip. I don't have a wild card either, so free hit only. And I made a few moves during lockdown, so I'm pretty happy with my squad. I've got a starting 11 I'm very happy with. My bench is a little bit weak, but it's not awful. So I'm happy with my squad. So my plan is quite simple. I'm not going to use unlimited transfers. Now, it seems very odd not to use unlimited transfers. It's the first time we've ever had unlimited transfers in FPL, and I'm not going to end up using them, which feels wrong. But like Holly says, if you're happy with your squad, I think you can play your free hit chip and then get your team back and just roll with those guys for the rest of the season. So that's my plan. A very quick run through my team. I've got Pope in goal. I've got a double Liverpool defence of Trent, Robertson, and I've got Doherty as well. Salah, Harvey Barnes, KDB and Bruno Fernandes in midfield. And I've got Jimenez, Rashford and Calvert-Lewin. So I'm very happy with that starting 11. Happy to roll with those guys after the double game week. And then on the bench, I've got David Martin, Messina from Watford, Saka from Arsenal, and Tanganga from Spurs. So the bench is the area of the squad that I need to improve on. But back to strategy, I think it's straightforward. If you're happy with your team, you don't need to use your unlimited transfers. Free hit, you can attack the double game week. Reading out my team there, I've only got one player, KDB, from the 4 teams who have a double game week. In my starting 11, I've got Saka, but I don't know if he'll play both games. So for me, it makes sense. During lockdown, I sold Grealish and I sold Aubameyang. So in hindsight, obviously they were bad moves because I've got a double game week now, but we weren't to know that. So for me, I'm just going to go all in. Sheffield United triple up, Man City triple up, Arsenal and Aston Villa, 4, 5, maybe even 6 players from those 2 teams as well, and then welcome back my squad afterwards, which I'm happy with. So the answer to that question is yes, if you're happy with your squad at present, the free hit in Game Week 30 is a viable strategy. Don't be put off by, yes, it's we're gonna have FOMO for the next week, watching everyone bring in any player they want. But the key is, if you're happy with your squad, just sit on your hands and don't make any changes, and then activate that free hit chip. Question from Steve Goodlove. Steve has both triple captain and bench boost chip available. He wants to use one of them in Game Week 30. Any advice? So I think if you have both those chips left, triple captain and bench boost, I think I favour bench boost in Game Week 30 because you've got the unlimited transfers. You can set your team up as you want it to activate that bench boost, and that's something we're never usually able to do. You can't use your bench boost in Game Week 1. Or you can use your bench boost in Game Week 1, but this is something we're not usually able to do in the same game week. So you can set it up exactly how you want it to play out. So I think it's a no-brainer. If you've got bench boost, I think use it in the double game week. This is likely to be the only double game week. Yes, of course, there could be some surprise postponements down the line, but we don't know that, and there may not be. So I think you just play what's in front of you. We have a double game week, so use a chip. And I think if you've got bench boost, I would use it in Game Week 30 and then use a triple captain chip later. Now, I think the managers who are in the best position are those who have bench boost and also have the second wildcard. So in that case, I think you use your unlimited transfers, you use your bench boost in Game Week 30, and then in Game Week 31, you use your second wildcard to get rid of all those double game week players and set yourself up with a more balanced squad for the rest of the season. So I'm quite envious of those people who have the second wildcard left and the bench boost. But again, I played my wildcard early and I gained probably 100,000 places from using it. So I can't be too downbeat about that. How you build your bench boost 30 squad as well, that will depend on whether you have your second wildcard available, as I said. In terms of triple captain, it's if you're going to use your bench boost in game week 30, I'm sure a few people will use the triple captain there as well on a double game week player, and maybe bench boost then in a single game week. But I definitely prefer the bench boost when you can set it up, in the same week, and then just use triple captain in any single game week when one of your big hitters has a good game. Maybe if you get news that someone's going to definitely start before the deadline, I think that could be a good idea for the triple captainship for the rest of the season. Question from Zlatan FPL. Zlatan is asking about, what about the people who have all their chips left and their wildcard still remaining? How would I play that? So in that case, all chips left, so bench boost, triple captain, and a wildcard as well, and the free hit. So I think in that case, again, I think use the unlimited transfers to set up for bench boost in game week 30, then wildcard out of it in game week 31. Now the issue, I think the issue for people like this is, you're going to lose a lot of value in the players if you get rid of the likes of good players for this game week 30 who you've got value tied up in. You're going to have to pay a lot more to get them back in then with your second wildcard. But for me, I wouldn't worry too much about that. I don't think cash will be too much of an issue for those who wildcard in game week 31 or sometime after that, because you're probably going to have the likes of Salah and Mane are not going to be as high a priority once the league is wrapped up. The big hitters, Aguero, how much game time is he going to get? Harry Kane's fitness, Aubameyang hasn't been amazing this season, so I don't think cash will be too big of an issue. So I wouldn't let that fear put you off. I think you'll be fit to build a very good squad of 15 players regardless. So I would bench boost 30 with the unlimited transfers. I would wildcard out of it in game week 31. I would triple captain then whenever a big hitter has a good fixture, and then free hit again. Free hit, it's probably, if you've got all your chips, free hit's probably a good one to hold back until towards the end, just in case something unexpected happens. Maybe a few games do get called off for whatever reason, and maybe there will be a surprise double game week towards the end of the season. And I think if you've got a free hit chip in your back pocket, that's a nice kind of get out of jail free card to have over those who already used it. I wouldn't be again. I think if I had a free hit chip as well as all the other chips, I would just probably keep that one until game week 38. Again, just in case something pops up between now and then. But also, all the games on the final game week will be at the same time. So, there's always there's more of a chance of team news before the deadline. I remember a couple of seasons ago, Josh King was on Instagram before the deadline saying he was injured and he wasn't going to play for Bournemouth on the final day. Things like that. I think having a free hit chip on the final day of the season could be a fun way to play it. Moving on now to the more specific questions in terms of players and teams to target for the rest of the season. First question came in from FPL Teach Mode. Which players in our teams should we not be getting rid of, even though lots of people will be? So again, this is a trap of unlimited transfers. You're going to sell players who have been very good to you all season, and we all know what's going to happen. You're going to sell very good players, and they're going to do well after the break. So you've got to think long and hard about this. Don't fall into the trap of feeling like you need to make 10, 11, 12 changes just because you have unlimited transfers. It's like a wild card. People feel like when they play the wild card they have to make loads and loads of changes. For example, I think my first wildcard this season, I played it very late, and I think I only made 3 or 4 transfers. Don't feel like you need to make loads just because you've got unlimited transfers. Stick loyal to the players who've been good to you already this season. So I just noted down a few players here. If I was making unlimited transfers ahead of game week 30, the players, if I owned these guys, I wouldn't sell them. So Salah, Mane, Trent Alexander-Arnold, Jamie Vardy and Harvey Barnes from Leicester. The Wolves assets, whoever you've got from Wolves, I would keep them. So I've written down Jimenez and Doherty here. I would also keep Nick Pope, who I'm very happy to stick with for the season. And the Everton guys as well. I think Calvert-Lewin is exceptional value. And I think if you've had Richarlison, I think I would hold on to him as well. So that's just a few guys who I think a lot of people will sell, and I think could be punished by at least some of those players. Question from Matthew Penny-Kai. Which Manchester City attackers should we go for, apart from KDB, of course? So yeah, I do agree with Matthew here. KDB is, I don't like the word essential, but I think he probably is essential for the double game week. Best player in the league, in my opinion, and I just get the, these games could be of a slower pace when things return, and I think KDB is I kind of picture him in the park playing with his mates and just banging in goals and picking up assists, against defences that are not as sharp as usual. So I'm expecting big things from KDB in the double game week. So I've put the Manchester City attackers here in terms of preference. So number 1 for me is KDB. I think number 2 would be Aguero, followed by Sterling number 3, Mahrez number 4, and then I've just grouped all the others together and I've written down the word lottery because anything can happen. We don't know who's going to play. Gabriel Jesus, the 2 Silvas, Sané and Foden. Throw Gundogan in there as well. Rodri, all these guys. It's a lottery with who's going to play. But I think Aguero should get significant minutes over the 2 games. I really like Sterling for the double game week. I'm pretty sure he'll be in my free hit squad, which I'm going to mention. I've got a very quick free hit draft that I'll mention at the end of the podcast. Sterling, I think Pep loves him. He's a super fit guy, and I think given the season he's had, Pep will want to give him a confidence boost and get him back on track and back amongst the goals. So I think Sterling could do very well in the double game week. Mahrez I like more than Sané. I've seen a lot of people talk about Sané, but there's just so much speculation about his future. Is he going to get much game time? If he's not going to be there this season, I would have my doubts. So I think I would prefer Mahrez for that reason. So that's it. KDB 1, Aguero, Sterling, Mahrez. Now, I think that's the way I'll go. I think I'll attack Manchester City attackers. I'm probably going to avoid Laporte because, again, long injury layoff. We've seen him when he came back towards the end of the regular season that he had a few niggling issues. He wasn't completing 90 minutes, so I really don't think he'll get. I could see him, maybe start one game in the double game week and maybe on the bench for the second one. So I would rather just go for broke, go for De Bruyne, go for Aguero, and go for Sterling or Mahrez if you can afford all 3 of the big guys. Question from Knaresborough Badger. Do we risk ignoring good single game week players, Wolves for example, by going all in on John Fleck? I like the way he's phrased that question with John Fleck thrown in there. So very good question. And this is again a trap that we always fall into as fantasy managers. We see a double game week. We bring in 11 double game weekers and we ignore all the teams who have just one fixture. And there's always players who have one game who will outscore the players who have 2 games. Now, in my case, I don't mind free hitting in 30 because a lot of the players I have tricky fixtures. So I've got Bruno Fernandes and Rashford who are away to Spurs, so I don't mind losing them for that game. Liverpool, I've got 3 Liverpool guys. They've got the Merseyside derby away, so again, anything could happen in that one. The Wolves guys, as mentioned here in the question, are probably the only ones I'm worried about. I've got Jimenez, I've got Doherty, and I'm still undecided, whether I will keep one or both of them if I free hit. At the moment, I mean, if the game week started tonight, I think I would be all in on 12 double game weekers, so 11 double game weekers in my starting 11 and 1 on the bench, and just completely revamp my squad apart from KDB for the double game week. Get 3 City, 3 Sheffield United, 3 Villa and 3 Arsenal. But I think the more the game week deadline gets closer, I'll consider keeping 1 or 2 players who've got 1 game, and probably the most likely would be Jimenez because I really like that fixture against West Ham, and Trent Alexander-Arnold as well because we just know what he can do. Think back to that Leicester game, which was an away game as well, if I remember correctly, when he scored 24 points. So it's quite scary to get rid of Trent even just for 1 game week. He's by far and away the best defender in the game. He's arguably the best FPL player in the game. So he may survive. So it could be a case of I set up with maybe 9 double game weekers and keep Trent and keep Jimenez. So that's something I need to think about for the next week. I don't mind losing the Liverpool guys. I don't mind losing the United guys. I've got Harvey Barnes. He's away to Watford. Not an easy fixture away to Watford for Leicester. And I've got Nick Pope, who's away to Manchester City. So that's actually a good week to lose Pope and bring in a goalkeeper with 2 fixtures. Likewise, Calvert-Lewin plays Liverpool, so wouldn't be expecting too much there either. So for me, I think the fixtures line up quite nicely for a free hit in 30, and then I get all those guys back in 31 when they've actually got better fixtures. A couple of other notes I've written down here for this question. It's just that it's the most, going for 11 double game weekers is obviously the most fun way to do it. It's been 3 months without FPL, so I'm very tempted to just go all out 11 double game weekers and set myself up to fail most likely. Captaining someone like Raheem Sterling and just crying for a few days when it goes wrong. Question from FPL Frank. Frank is asking about Arsenal. Are Arsenal worth investing in beyond Aubameyang if you're not using a free hit in game week 30? So I think my short answer to this is no. Arsenal are not worth investing in if you're not using a free hit chip. Even Aubameyang, I don't feel great about him. He will be in my free hit squad, but he definitely won't be my captain. I don't have a lot of faith in Aubameyang at his price. So again, it's a 1 week punt for me. I want them for the double game week, but I don't want them after that. Leno is probably the next best Arsenal asset. I'm probably going to take a punt on Pepe. Again, a player I don't mind having for 2 bites of the cherry in a double game week, but I wouldn't trust him long term. So I think if you're not free hitting, Aubameyang, maybe Leno, but apart from that, I would probably just stay away from Arsenal. Question from Hex. Hex is asking about Chelsea attacking options. Is Pulisic too big of a risk for the price? So I've had a look. Pulisic is 6.9 million. Is he too big of a risk? I think he is, for the one simple reason. Go and look at Chelsea on the transfers page and look at how many midfield options they have available, and up front as well. There's Tammy Abraham, Pulisic, Mason Mount, Willian, Hudson-Odoi, Barkley, Pedro, Ruben Loftus-Cheek. For me, that just screams rotation, and I don't think you can rely on Chelsea attackers. Tammy Abraham might be the best bet because he's probably their best striker, and he probably will get majority of the games. But again, Abraham's a bit like Rashford. He had a long layoff, so I would fear that he could be eased back in. He might start a game, get 15-20 minutes in the next game, and so on. So I wouldn't be 100% confident in any Chelsea player. I think that goes for their defence as well. I'm probably just going to avoid Chelsea completely for the rest of the season. I've just written down here avoid and put a big circle around it. So there's your answer on Chelsea attacking options. Question from Jared in Co. Jared says, should we triple up on Manchester United? And he suggests Rashford plus Bruno plus Slabhead. Now, Slabhead is Jared's name. That is not me. That's calling Mr. Maguire Slabhead before I get in trouble. I've written down here, Manchester United have great fixtures. They've got arguably the best fixtures of all teams for the rest of the season. So I do like the triple up on Manchester United. During the lockdown, I brought in Rashford and I brought in Bruno Fernandes. So I'm very happy to have both of those guys for the rest of the season. I think Fernandes is the pick of the United players because he's not coming back from an injury like Rashford is and like Pogba is. And we know Martial can get injured at any given moment. So I think Bruno Fernandes is the number one pick from United. I would probably say Harry Maguire then is probably the second best. Again, centre-backs are going to be very popular because they're more likely to complete 90 minutes than the full-backs are. So I've got my eye on Maguire. Possibly, I've got the Liverpool double-up Robertson and Trent. Happy enough to keep those until the league is wrapped up and then maybe move Robertson to Maguire. That's something that's in the back of my mind. And I'm happy to have Rashford as well. Again, I think his minutes will be managed to begin with, but again, whose minutes are not going to be managed when the league returns? So just got to take that on the chin, and hopefully Rashford gets plenty of game time. And if not, there's plenty of other strikers I can move to anyway. So yeah, I do like that. I think that is my ideal triple up: Rashford, Bruno and Maguire. Question from FPL Newton Heath. Which players would you bring in now and keep for the rest of the season? So I put an article up on the Athletic for anyone who's a subscriber yesterday titled The Perfect team for the run-in. So that will give you an idea of some of the players that I think you can get now and keep for the rest of the season. I've just noted down a few of them here. So I think these are players you can get with your unlimited transfers and happily hold them right through until game week 38. So I've mentioned United, Bruno and Maguire. The Wolves guys, Wolves and Manchester United have the best fixtures. So Jimenez, Matt Doherty and Willie Bolly. Bolly's probably safer than Doherty, again, that centre-back player. But I'm hoping Doherty will get plenty of game time as well. Jamie Vardy, I think, is probably going to be overlooked. I think Maddison as well. Maddison's had a pretty frustrating season, especially for people who put faith in him for quite a few weeks. It was quite a run of blanks of 2-pointers, but he could be reinvigorated after the break, and he's a player who should play most of the minutes. Harvey Barnes, I'm going to keep. Again, Barnes is always at threat of rotation. I think there's a few injury issues with Perez, so hopefully that bodes well for Barnes, at least for the opening couple of games. Everton guys as well. I think Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison, you can pick those guys and keep them for the season. Van Dijk is the pick of the Liverpool defenders because, again, he's a centre-back. I think he's less likely to be rotated than Trent or Robertson. I think from Spurs, I don't have a lot of interest in Spurs, but I think if I had to pick one for the rest of the season, it would be Heung-min Son. I like Norwich as well for the run-in. I think they could make a late dash for survival. Pukki will play every minute. Cantwell should play a lot of minutes as well. Cantwell's great value, 4.7 million, ideal fifth midfielder. First sub, second sub. Cantwell is a great option for that. Dare I say it, my old foe Callum Wilson, again, should play the majority of minutes. Bournemouth fighting for survival. And Sarr at Watford as well. So that's a few players I think you can bring in now and trust them for the rest of the season. Last question to cover before I talk about my plans for free hit. Question from Shakalaka. What's your opinion on Laporte for game week 30 until the end of the season? So I've probably already covered this. I don't trust Laporte, at least to begin with. I don't think he'll play. I don't think he'll start every game. He's a very, very important player for Man City. They're going to be very careful with him. They're going to want him, fight and fit for next season, more importantly than this season. So I would probably stay away from Laporte. If you really want to go into the Man City defence, I would just get Ederson. I think he's probably the safest bet of all of those guys. So what are my plans for double game week 30 plus? As I mentioned, I've only got free hit left and I'm very happy with my squad. So I'm going to activate free hit for game week 30 and then welcome back all those players that I'm happy with for game week 31. So again, my first draft I've put together, it's an all-in approach. So it's go with 11 double game weekers in the starting 11. Get rid of all of my players, the likes of Trent, Salah, Jimenez, all of those guys. Again, this is going to change a few times before next week, but this just gives you an idea of what I'm going to do if I do go all in. So goalkeeper would be Leno. I think Leno's a good pick for the double game week. I would go for triple Sheffield United defence, and I would probably target those centre-backs just because I think they're more likely than Baldock and Stevens to get more than 60 minutes twice. So Basham, Egan and O'Connell as a trio in defence. Now, Sheffield United are a team that I don't have any players from them. I like them for the double game week, and then I don't really like their fixtures after that. So that's one of the things I like about this free hit for me. I can get that triple Sheffield United defence, and then I don't have to worry about them after that. In midfield, KDB will stay. His teammate Sterling will join him. A 2-game punt on Pepe from Arsenal. And Jack Grealish. I think Jack Grealish is a no-brainer. I think he will be in every single free hit team in game week 30. Up front, the big two, Aguero and Aubameyang. And then a punt on Samatta as well, possibly. Now, I don't feel great about Samatta. I could change things around, and instead of Samatta, I could go for Fleck from Sheffield United in midfield and just lose one of those Sheffield United defenders. I like Fleck as an option as well. I think there's a good chance he will get significant minutes over those 2 games. Another option would be to get an Aston Villa defender. Again, don't feel great about that. Could go for Target or Tyrone Mings. John McGinn as well, but again, coming back from a broken ankle, will he start both games? I think my guess is he probably will, because they have to win as many games as possible, Villa. So I think if McGinn is anywhere close to 100% fit, I think he will start both games. But unlikely probably to complete 90 minutes in both. So McGinn could be a good punt. Samatta, I probably prefer Samatta to a Villa defender, because I really don't like them defensively. I'd expect them to concede in both games. So with Samatta, if he gets you one goal over the 2 games, he could get you maybe 10 points over the double game week, which would be a good return. I like what I've seen of Samatta. I think he's a decent striker, so he could be a surprise package in game week 30. In terms of captaincy for game week 30 free hit, I haven't given it too much thought. I don't really trust Arsenal players for captaincy. I'm definitely not going to captain an Aston Villa player. Sheffield United defender, no thanks. Shane Duffy was enough. I think that was the only time in my FPL career I've captained a defender, was when I captained Shane Duffy. So the scars are still there, so I'm not going to go down that route. So that really leaves Manchester City for the captaincy. KDB, Sterling or Aguero. I think KDB will be a very popular captain. My gut feeling is Sterling. Now, people will probably scratch their head at that. He's had a very quiet season, but I think it's been 3 months since anybody's played a game. I think it's a clean slate for every single player when FPL returns. And I think that's important. When you're picking your team, when you're making your unlimited transfers, give every player a clean slate. The likes of Maddison, the likes of Sterling, Pukki's been quiet, but it's a fresh start. And these guys could really come out of the traps flying. So I like the idea of going Sterling. I think he's got as good a chance as any City attacker of starting both games. So, and again, even if he doesn't start both games, Sterling, if he gets, let's say he gets 70 minutes in one game and maybe 20 or 30 minutes in another game, that's more than enough time for him to do damage. And that goes for any of the City attackers really. Aguero and KDB I think are very good captaincy options as well. At the moment I'm thinking Sterling. It'll be Sterling or KDB I think. I don't think I'll go Aguero. Jesus just scares me off a little bit. So that is my thinking. So you can tell me if I'm being sensible with Sterling or do I need to see sense before next Wednesday. So that's my plans for Double Game Week 30. Hopefully I've covered everything I wanted to cover in this episode. Thank you for taking the time to listen, folks. If you'd like to hear more from me before the deadline and during the remainder of the season, you can check out my Patreon at patreon.com/FPL General. If you've got any questions about Patreon, just send me a message on Twitter at FPL General and I'll get back to you. Happy tinkering for the next few days and good luck in Double Game Week 30 plus. Hopefully it will be 100 plus points for most of us. I'll be back ahead of Game Week 31 plus. So the next episode will be available on Monday the 22nd of June. So I think Man City Burnley play that evening, but I'm going to record on the Sunday night. So the podcast will be available to listen to on Monday and Tuesday before the Tuesday deadline. Again, thanks for listening, folks, and I wish you a 100 plus point game week in Double Game Week 30.